Hey guys, it's me again, and I am here with another I Am Fun Size video for you. As promised, the second half of my conversation with Caroline. If you haven't checked in and seen the first half of our conversation, you can click on the link that is somewhere on this screen. Look at me figuring out the YouTube, woo! And if you have already watched it, you know what a beautiful soul she is, and how much fun we have together, and I hope you will enjoy this second half of our offering for you. Happy Sunday! Bye! Okay, we're starting back up. We've made the doggies happy, and you're going to see their butts walking through here. There he goes! So there was one really great question that I wanted to make sure to ask you, because you and I have both helped each other in moments of this. And the question was, what would you do if you felt lost in the career path you've chosen?
Great question.
Well,
I often do.
I often do too, and I actually very specifically remember hiking with you once at a time when I was like, maybe I should quit. I've already been in this business for 2 decades, and I don't know if I should be an actor anymore. And having that conversation, and so are there ways that you have that you just cope with that unknowing?
Mm-hmm.
And what would they be, in addition to hiking with your girlfriend?
Well, I think becoming a Buddhist is a good one. No, I am not a Buddhist, but it seems like a smart thing.
Sure. No, I mean, that's certainly a part of so much of what they teach is the acceptance and the understanding of impermanence and everything.
Yeah, I think I actually had a moment like that last year, and I just was like, should I be doing this still? And then it was amazing because I actually, so I have 2 answers. One is just keep going. And I think that often when I have just kept going in that unknown, in that sort of the universe is, and everybody is sort of saying, maybe you shouldn't do this, maybe you should, and there's a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray in this business. I just kept going. And that sort of curiosity in keeping going led me to try new things and different things.
Well, you are actually unique. I mean, I remember you had a second thing too, but you are uniquely suited to answer this question from both vantage points, both from the vantage point of, I want to keep going, but I'm not sure if I should, or I'm changing career paths. Because when you change from a poli-sci major to a drama major, you knew. So in that sense, was there a sense of, oh, I feel lost in the poli-sci thing, should I, shouldn't I? What was your...
Well, that was just because, again, it was actually quite depressing. I remember being a little bit depressed in my life. I was just doing stuff that I didn't actually really deep down care about as much as I felt that, like, to acting and theater and storytelling and that whole shebang. So that's why I go back to the listening, where I finally was like, okay, there is a tiny voice nagging at me. I'm going to listen to it now instead of keep shutting it out. And I do believe that you will live a happier life if you listen to those voices and come out of your own closets.
Whatever they are.
Closets they are.
What was the second thing about what would you do if you felt lost in the career path that you had chosen?
So one is just keep going and see where that curiosity leads you. Because sometimes when we just keep going, we do something different and we learn and we progress in a totally different way. Lots of forks in the road when you don't know if you should keep going. On the other end of things, I did have my first moment in, 15 years in this business, where I thought, I need to stop for a minute and ask myself again if I want to keep doing this. Because I had a really bad experience in my work, and it really extinguished a lot of that excitement and fire for what I was doing. And so I just kind of went, you know what? I'm just not going to really pursue this hard again until I really want to. Because I will say one thing. Your work won't be great. Your life won't be great if you don't want to do it. If you're doing this because you want to impress people, if you're doing this because you want to be famous, if you're doing this for exterior reasons, you're probably not going to be too happy in it. And there are other things for you to do that where you will feel that.
Right. And that's in any field. That's not just as performers, because so many of you are not actually performers. And so I think that's great advice in general. Yep. If you're not feeling it, it's really hard to do your best work if you're not somehow passionate about it.
Yeah, and I mean, my gosh, there are people who are passionate about fixing the wires on televisions. There are people who are passionate about grooming dogs, and they're great at it. We have a dog groomer who is so great at it.
I mean, look at it. Look at his back; it's so sleek.
There he is.
And there he is with the squirrel.
Could you sit? Oh, could you? No. Okay.
It's okay, Charlie. We'll get you a different squirrel.
So anyway, so I took some time, and it wasn't a long time, but I just said, I'm not going to make a move until I want to again, until I feel that I need to do that for myself again, and that I'll find joy and inspiration from it. And so I did some other things. I started a theater company, and then I taught a lot, and I took some time in nature, and I just took some time, and it was funny because that was when like an audition came in for a play that I just loved, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna just do this one thing because I just love this play, and it'll just be fun, and I just kind of did the audition for myself. Yep. And
of course, you got it.
That's what they call it.
You fired,
and it really did. And what was really amazing was it was such a wonderful experience. I mean, the most professional cast who I learned from each one of them. The best director that I adore. Great theater that's run really well, and we just had a great time. And but I will say, sometimes you have to wait. Yeah, and I've always said about this business especially, but now I hear most businesses, in my opinion, the hardest part about this job is the waiting, and the keeping your sanity, and the keeping and the not knowing, but keeping going when you're waiting. So keeping inspired, keeping going, and fine tuning your instruments so that it is ready when they call. Because that's another thing that you have to really do. And you're the queen of this. I mean,
well, but I'm not, and I appreciate you saying this.
At all times. She's ready. Call her. She's ready.
But I really like what you were saying there about finding, the other thing, exploring other things. Because when I had a similar situation, and it was, recently, it was a few years ago, where it was the first time that I was questioning, should I really be doing this? Whatever this was. What I realized, I thought, and I looking back, I see this. What I needed to do was, what am I not getting, and can I get that from somewhere else while I'm waiting for it in this career? Whatever that thing is. So again, to your question, what would you do if you feel lost in the career path you've chosen? I had to ask myself, okay, I know I want to do this thing, but I'm not getting X, Y, Z from it. Can I get that in the meantime from somewhere else? Yeah. And if I can, let me do that on the side, and being able to find that kind of fulfillment in my relationships, or even in being kind to people on the street or in the supermarket, and having those one-on-one connections with them started to refuel me in a way that I felt like I could only get from my work. Yeah, I really do find that when I'm feeling lost, going to the things that feel right, not in momentary moments, not like going to a bar or something like that, because that never ends up feeling right in the long run. But I feel right for a minute. No, I don't even really drink, so I don't know why I went there. But apparently I'm drunk now. But going to the things that feel right. We'll edit that out. Things that we go to that feel right, that give me joy, because so much of my joy comes from seeing other people's joy. When I am feeling the saddest, usually what helps me the most is making someone else happy.
Oh,
you know.
you're good at that.
And well, thank you, sweetheart. And
Good.
but if I feel like, gosh, I'm not getting the leg up that I need, immediately I'm like, well, who am I helping? Who can I give a leg up to? Who can I make feel better in this moment? Because every bit of struggle that we've had, someone else somewhere is having.
Yeah, that's funny. It reminds me of something that I try to do with every show that I do. And so you do all of these rehearsals and everything. And then it's opening night. And so, you know, you've done your tech, you've done your rehearsals, like whatever it's going to be, it's there.
There it is.
So you wake up that day and go, oh my gosh, opening night's tonight. And you have this day, right? And I chose, I don't know, many years ago to make that day about doing everything I could for everybody else. And the part of that was writing notes to my cast members, and not just like, happy opening, but like, you know, I've really admired your work when you did this, or like, you know, just really connecting. And then, you know, buying little treats or something like that. And then just trying to be as selfless as possible
On a night where
where you could think it's all about you. And it's really changed the game that way, and I think you really live that way. Because I'm shocked at how generous you are. It's amazing.
I didn't pay her to say that. I don't know why she's saying it. I'll pay you later. I'll pay you later.
But yeah, it's very important as a creative person to keep doing things for others.
Well, I think, and as a, we're all creative people. We all have the ability to live an artistic life. It's just that you might manifest that artistry in a different way. I mean, I look at the fan art that comes in and I'm blown away, and I look at the things that people are creating, but then I also look at the way people are expressing themselves in other ways. Some of the jokes, the comedy that's coming out on some of these tweets that people will write, or whatever. Everybody has their own superpower, and mine might not be drawing, and someone else's might not be singing, or whatever, but we all have a way to express ourselves that is artistic and beautiful. My mom is one of the most artistic people I've ever met in my lifetime, and she's a doctor, and she would express her artistry the way she would create a beautiful meal for the family, or with things that she would do. You know, she'd throw a party, and it would be the way that she would lay things out for people there. She would express it in the cards that she would write on our birthdays, in the way that she made our lunches. She had a schedule of all of our lunches and things like that. So we all have ways to lead an artistic life, to give that to the world. It doesn't have to look the same as what everybody else thinks.
I think, again, that comes from that listening. It's just like, you wake up and you go, what do you want to do? What would make me happy? How can I serve? You know, I know that sounds trite at this point, but that question of what could I do for others? You know, and I actually just came to the realization that is why I love doing what I do, because sharing stories has always helped me. And I remember when I was younger and kind of felt a little lost in my grade school. I kind of was a humongous loser, and but the stories that I would hear, and you know, through movies and plays, they were just a saving grace because I sort of saw myself in them. I thought, oh, okay, and I just going back to that, just keep going. You know, I grew up with writers, and my father's an author and of books. My mother is an author of poetry books. They just keep going.
There's always a story to tell. There's always someone to tell it to. And there's always someone who needs it.
Yes, but there are many times where it feels like there isn't. Because, you know, when you write, you just write. You just write and you 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 write. And you write.
Right.
And then somebody reads it, maybe. But they never stop writing. And now it's not a question of, will they get an agent? Will they get published? They have to write, you know, and then in terms of like doing things for others, like I think we both have worked with people who are so focused on themselves, and one would define them as narcissists, and it's a very sad place. And you know, I've certainly been in chapters of that where the business does make it all about you, and you're selling yourself, and you have to look this way, and you have to focus on how your eyebrows look and all of this.
Right.
And then, but what really, and it becomes very depressing. It becomes very lonely and kind of sad. And I think that if you can,
that's it, Petruchio.
you
are hilarious.
Hey! I was just on to a point.
That was my fault
Can
entirely.
we not? Thank you so much. Why?
So,
Why?
well, Petruchio does think it's all about me because it is.
I know.
It is all about Petruchio.
So anyway, but again, just like I'll never forget. There was a moment like I told a friend about a theater company, and she went, and I auditioned for this role, like big role there, and she did too, but she didn't tell me, and then she booked it, and I was like, oh, that was, oh, I don't even know what that was, and I was a little sad,
Yeah.
and I just felt a little miffed, and I called my dad, and I was like, and she got the role, and I didn't. And he listened, which was sweet, which is why we have friends and family to just hear us out. And he said, have you done anything for anyone else today? And I said, well, actually, and it was very funny because I said, actually, I'm on my way to the LA Children's Hospital to read stories to children for an hour. He said, all right, call me when you're done. And an hour passed, and I called him, and I was like, I'm really lucky, Dad. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it just shifts, just changes the game, and you remember that. This is another thing I want to say to people who are.
Okay, it looks like the doggies are going to go crazy because of the thunder. So there's one more thing that she wanted to say, and I wanted to make sure you get
Well, no,
a chance to say.
I wonder if you agree with me on this, in that at the end of the day, it's such a privilege to be a creative person and to pursue that. And, you know, even when we're eating tuna fish and crackers and, you know, holding on, at the end of the day, it's a real privilege. And we're very lucky. And I just feel like anyone can do that. It just takes a little bit of bravery to kind of jump off that cliff into the ether of the unknown.
Yep.
But it's worth it. It's really hard, but it's really worth it.
And anything I think that's really worth it, it can be really hard. So you might as well stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you guys.
Thank you, darling.
Oh. So this lady is one of the reasons that my life is so good, and that's why I wanted to make sure you all got to know
Can
her.
I say one more thing? I'm so sorry.
Go for it.
Oh, I just really wanted to say this one
Say
thing.
it.
Okay, before in the conversation we were talking about you were talking about surfing, and you tried it.
Yes.
Right? So you came surfing with me, and I think it was like right around that time. You were like, oh yeah, let's do that. And then we were like, let's just go to the farmer's market briefly.
Oh, no, I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened.
But wait, this just goes to my point. Let me just say one thing, which is, so she tried surfing, and you might say you were.
I was fine.
But then out of that came our friendship, and then from our friendship and just hanging out around that time, we went randomly to a farmer's market, and randomly she met the love of her life. Do you want to show who that is?
One of the loves of my life, and it
Yeah.
was not random. It was because this beautiful woman was volunteering with an organization called Much Love Animal Rescue.
Well done. Good
And
call.
Much Love, they rescue animals from all over Southern California. And I had said, I think I might want to adopt a dog.
And I was like, well, then come with me.
Come with me to the farmer's market.
So my point about that is, what I was going to say before is, when you're just starting out, or if you're far along, something I've learned through this is something always comes from something. Right?
Yep.
And so, if you're just doing a favor for a friend, something will come from that. And if you're, trying surfing, something will come from that. And you never know what it is, but something always comes from something. Nothing comes from nothing.
Nothing ever could. So